Anyway, yeah, that's what we're actually here to talk about, the Outriders demo. So let's dive into some Outriders. For those of you that don't know what Outriders is a new game that's coming out in April. It is from People Can Fly, which is a development studio that you may have heard of. They've been a support studio for a lot of different games up to this point, but one of their last games that they worked on was Bulletstorm, which was a really fun, crazy, hokey kind of had a feeling of like Rage and Doom and Quake, but it was their own kind of adaptation that was just like super intense, super like high octane energy, like big brute dudes that are badasses, and there was like really corny dialogue throughout it, but it was a fun game. It was short, but it was really fun. And they've been working on a lot of different projects over the years, but they have a background in shooters. I mean, they did Gears of War Judgment, Painkiller. They worked on actually a lot of the Gears of War games, Gears of War 3, Gears of War 2, Gears of War 1. They worked on Infinity Blade, Unreal, Fortnite. So they've been a big like support studio for like Epic and then Microsoft stuff. Now they're here with this game, Outriders, that is a 3-player co-op. I thought it was 4, but it's actually 3-player co-op game in which you have 4 different classes that you can choose from, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. You are it reminded me a lot of Mass Effect Andromeda, the initial setup, but you're basically a bunch of people that Earth went to shit because people destroyed Earth, and you get on this big, massive ship that can't land. It can only fly, and it's taking a whole bunch of people to another planet to repopulate and create a new civilization because that's your last-ditch effort. So you find this planet called Enoch, which ends up being a little bit more hostile than you anticipated with these crazy, like, freaking thunderstorms and shit, and then shit hits the fan, and it just gets wild. And then it's not as happy-go-lucky, exciting land of joy that you thought it was going to be.
That's right.
And it's a shooter RPG, so there's a lot of there's definitely a story involved here. There's a lot of deep role-playing systems with like skill trees. There's obviously the 4 classes that we mentioned. There's loot, so it is kind of like a looter shooter where you are going to collect loot to upgrade and increase your weapon strength and then also your armor strength. And it's co-op. So we've played. I haven't played much. I played like an hour and a half of the demo. Austin, you've beat the demo, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Pretty quick. But the cool thing was that you can go back in with that same character or class that you created and complete some side quests.
Yeah. So how long do you what do you think? 3 hours, 4 hours you spent on it? Or
Yeah, I'd say about 3 hours.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure there's like 4 hours of content. Maybe 5. Maybe. But I think you can get through the demo in probably like 2 hours.
Yeah. And that's not bad. I mean, for a demo, like it's cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's a good. And what's cool about it is that you can play that same bit of story and then go back and create a new character and try all 4 classes. So all 4 classes are available to you, which the 4 classes they have in this game are going to be your Pyromancer. You have the what's the one? Wait, hang on. The Trickster, I believe, is one of them. There is the one that you play as, which has a name that I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to pull it up, but it clearly their website doesn't do a good job with it.
Dang, I already forgot it. Devastator.
And then the last one is something else. Hang on a minute. I'm going to pull up a better article.
It's a sniper, isn't it?
Yeah. It's funny, their website really doesn't do a good job at explaining what's like in the game.
Really? That's not good.
Yeah. It says 4 classes are available, and you have to watch a video to find out what the 4 classes are. But I want to just like read it. I want to see a list. You know what I mean? It's a simple, easy, accessible list.
What the heck?
Yeah, basically there's 4 different classes. I can't find the freaking names of them right now for some reason. I have to go dig for videos. But the one that I'm playing is a Pyromancer, which has like fire-based damage. Austin, yours is a close-range tank ability. But do you do like poison damage or anything like that?
Not now.
I just saw like green stuff coming out. I thought that was like poison stuff, but it just goes green. But it's
my green stuff is I get. Well, I think it's the same for you, but I get healed. And they were telling me the more I kill, the more I get healed. So
yeah, I think all the characters have some ability.
Okay, that's what
like
I thought. That's what I thought. We can dive in that later because I think that's an interesting mechanic.
Yeah. Yeah, so you open up in the story and it's fully acted, it's fully cutscene. there is so far it's interesting. I mean, I know you like this story. I feel like you like the story more than I do so far. Like, tell me about your thoughts on the story and like your just initial impressions of what you experienced with the showcase of the setting, the story, all of that stuff.
Yeah. So before coming into this, I really didn't know too much. I mean, I know it's kind of like Destiny, and it's a looter shooter type game, and playing it a little bit like there's aspects of Anthem in there with the loot and how it's designed in a way.
I do want to caveat real quick before we get too deep into it. They have come out and explicitly stated that this is not a live service game. This is when you buy it, what is in the game is what's going to be there. There's going to be no microtransactions, likely no post-game content, no live service elements like that of Anthem or Destiny, which is cool, I think, because hopefully that will help make this not be as frustrating. But it could also go the way of Godfall, which was frustrating. But anyway.
Yes, it was very. So, coming into it, I was like, all right, well, I don't really know much, so let's just do it and then dive into the story. And it's very much like Mass Effect Andromeda, and you're this outrider who's supposed to go and search this new planet for a habitable location to bring the people of Earth who had some kind of like massive fallout, which I don't think they actually ever told us what happened on Earth. Just something had happened and everyone had to leave Earth. Do you remember anything about that?
I mean, there was little bits of nuggets because like you had to ask questions like whenever you're like introducing to the initial people like Jakob and then Selena or whatever her name was. When you're talking to them, they give you those extra. Yeah, sure. You're getting those extra dialogue options. I don't know if you did those, but if you do those, they dive. Okay, yeah, those dove a little bit deeper into it. But it sounds like there was a lot of like internal just conflict where it's just like people just hate on each other, and there's like basically a crazy internal war, and they just started like destroying like the Earth, and then also just like the overuse of our resources, and they kind of destroyed the planet, and that is why they decided to move early before everything was gone and stuff. So some of it was part like political diplomacy craziness, and other part of it was like we just like destroyed the planet resources and everything.
Right. Yeah. So that was like, okay. I mean, it makes sense. I get it. We've heard those kind of stories before, so it's not too like, out of left field. And we've kind of, I mean, this story's been told before. Earth's gone to shit. People had to leave. They go somewhere else, and everything goes awry. And, I think it was easier to follow this character. I mean, he's kind of got this Nolan North vibe to him, but it's a little more gritty and not so funny. And the cool thing about the story and the game is I actually think it takes itself seriously. It's not like trying to be campy or anything, or overly dramatic. It's a nice balance, in my opinion. And so like this guy's going, like they're trying to find these pods, and they found this one pod, and they go in, and you're trying to get to it, and there's this crazy like aliens. What's that last one that came out? Prometheus type of goo that's in the forest that gets people sick, and then I thought that was I was like, I hope that's an homage to that, to like the little black goo from
I'm kind of curious what that was.
Yeah. And then he finds there's a storm that ends up rolling in and starts like the lightning is blowing people up or disintegrating them, and somehow this guy doesn't die and gets these powers that you find out later on. And I was like, okay, like
become afflicted.
Yeah. Afflicted?
Yeah.
No, it's altered.
Altered, that's what I meant.
Yeah. That actually would have been better. I think that's a better word. Anyway, so like everything that's happening, like it's pretty fast paced. Like you get into the action, like the story ramps up, and it held my attention the whole time. And I think that was the key thing about this is, it's not like Destiny. And the comparison there is like Destiny has, every game's cinematic, and I want to say this game is cinematic, but it's the way that they actually present the cutscenes is they try to have a style, and so it's more of like a handheld look. Brett was saying that it's very 24. That's why I like it, because 24, the show is all handheld basically.
Yeah.
But like they're actually trying something. They're trying to do something different and be unique. When we see handheld shots in video games, but not very often, I feel like. Some game use them for certain moments to like really emphasize, that moment. And in this game, it just felt gritty, and I felt like it was able to really draw me into the story, and I could lose myself into what was happening. And again, like the voice acting was actually pretty decent, and it allowed me to get in there. And when you talk to Shira the first time, you get to find out like how she got on the ship and what happened to her dad. And I think for the most part, the stories that are told through the people you can talk to, like it actually, it's pretty heartwarming, and it was easy for me to more or less fall in love with these characters and be like, all right, cool. Like these are the people who are going to come with me on this journey. And then you get shot and you get put in a cryo sleep by Shira, which is a scientist, right? She's a scientist, or
yeah, she's an engineer, technically.
Engineer, that's right.
She's one of the ones that designed that big ship.
So basically, this storm comes by and you get hurt, and there's these factions that are trying to fight it out over control of what's going on at the time, and without giving too much away. And so you get put in cryo sleep, and Shira's like, all right, I'll come get you like as soon as everything's good. And then you end up waking up, but it's like 35 years later.
It was 31 years later.
31 years later, and the whole, like, you don't know what's going on. There's all these factions, this giant war, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, what a twist. I did not see that coming.
I was wondering how they were going to set that up, because I was like, man, they're just like doing this like, we're just now setting this place. And I was like, when did the bad guy, like, where are the bad guys? And all of a sudden it's like, fast forward, here you are.
So I had this whole track in my mind, like, oh, we're like, there's this pod that's doing this weird like signal, and it's like that must be how we're like all these bad guys eventually run in. And pretty traditional, I feel like, story for like going out.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we think we know what this world is and it's going to help us. And then wait, there's all these people here that are trying to kill us. And man, that was a great twist. Didn't see it coming. And it really sucked me in at that point. And some stuff happens. And then these people are like, we're going to throw him into no man's land. And that storm that happens at the beginning comes back through. And it throws a pike through your body.
I guess I should probably have said before we started this now, spoiler alert. You haven't played the demo, because we basically spoiled the demo so far. But
yeah, I just feel like it's so short, and it's just spoilers.
Yeah,
you can't get around it. Anyway, I was like, God dang, your guy's already dead. And then they do. It's a little hokey, but it's like, all right, pick your class, and you come back to life. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was a little weird, but
it was cool but weird.
Yeah.
And then that leads you into, now you have your powers, and I mean, it's gamey, it's fine. I don't know how you do it correctly in a way that makes it like believable, but I was like, all right, cool. Now I have my powers. I'm gonna run around, and you get to shoot shit and all that stuff.
Yeah, some of the way that they kind of introduce you to the mechanics over at Trying. So I was like, for the early part of the game, like they didn't introduce you to the sprint yet. I'm like sitting there pressing L3. I'm like, why can't I sprint? I want to sprint.
Yeah, me too.
And then they finally open it up and like, okay, now press L3 to sprint. I was like, okay, thank God. I knew it was gonna be in here somewhere. But
so I had to walk around this planet the whole time.
But the classes or the skills are pretty interesting so far. I mean, it's like you have the 3 skills that I have are, one is like a laned like charge like fire attack, so it just sends out like a lane of fire at somebody and does damage. And then my L1 R1 like reaches out like a fire like rope and like pulls them toward you and then does damage to them, and then you can then shoot them and kill them and stuff. And then my other ability is one that sends out like does some damage to somebody, but if it does also fire damage, but if it kills them with the fire damage, it causes an explosion that puts out 120 more damage radius to like those around it. So those are the early abilities, but as you level up your character, you unlock new abilities that can swap in and out the 3 abilities you have. So it's just like a lot of these traditional like hero shooter, class space shooter games where you have 2 abilities plus an ultimate, and they have a cooldown timer, and then later on you can swap them out with, I think there's probably 8 skills in total that unlock as you level up, and they later be swapped out. But it's pretty interesting. And then there's a whole skill tree that I haven't even dove into yet. I don't know how much you spent on the skill tree, like upgrading stuff.
Towards the end, I finally got to get one skill.
Yeah.
I went the whole demo without getting a skill.
That's interesting.
Skill point. Yeah, I know.
Well, apparently the max level cap in this is 7, I think, for the demo. So each character can go up to level 7.
Pretty close.
Yeah. Back to the classes. So there's 4 classes. Devastator is a close range tank. That's one Austin's playing. And then the Pyromancer is medium range conjurer of fire. There's a Technomancer that's long range support that uses gadgets. That one actually looked pretty cool. There were some interesting features with that one. And then the Trickster, close range, hit and run, space time. Trickster is kind of like your assassin because they can like blink and teleport to like take people out and stuff like that, which is really cool looking. Technomancer is like your engineer class. Pyromancer is your firebringer, and then of course Devastator. Pyromancer is kind of like your assault class, and then Devastator is your tank.
So I have 3 abilities. One, I can do like a fissure in the ground for a certain length out in front of me, and it stuns enemies and deals damage. And for bosses or like heavier, I guess technically there's people have to focus like heavier units, or I call them bosses because they're kind of like a boss. They have more health and armor, and they charge up and attack, and so you can use this to disrupt them when they do that. I also have one where I jump into the air and like turn the stone. It's really weird, and I can charge down. I could charge down and do like a line attack in front of me for a certain length. So if someone's actually like behind cover, I could just slam down in front of their cover and end up killing them or doing a bunch of damage. And then the other one is, I guess technically my ultimate, where you do L1 R1, and I put up a shield, or my body is covered in rock, and I take 65% less damage. For 8 seconds. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, there's some cool things here. And I thought it was an interesting mechanic early on because, you jump into a game like this and you can take cover and you can run from cover to cover, which is pretty standard. Jump over cover.
It's very Gears of War
dodge.
Feeling. Like that. Yeah. Knowing that they worked on Gears of War a lot, it definitely has that Gears of War combat style.
And,
which I like.
Did Gears have this? But this game wants you, they're like, the more you kill, the more you heal. So, I don't know if they said it just like that, but I think that sounds pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And so they want you to go in there. They want you to kill people. And here, you get that ping when you're all around you's flashing red. It's like, I gotta take cover, but it's like, but I'm dying. I gotta go out there and kill somebody. And so this is interesting mind flip.
Yeah,
that I have to take into account, and it's been very weird. I mean, I put 3 hours, and I'm just like, what are we doing? I'm not used to this at all. It's never happened.
Yeah. I do like that ability because I was like, how do you heal yourself? I keep like losing. I'm like expecting to have like a health pack pickup somewhere, like, slow regen when you like hide away from gunshots. But no, it's like you got to go kill more people to get more health on your person. I think that's across the board with all classes. So that was kind of neat because then it's like you don't have to sit there and hide behind cover every time. It encourages you to move and push in on the team. And you even have like an R3. I don't know how yours works with your R3, your melee, but my melee, now that I have my skill ability, catches them on fire and does more fire damage, which is cool. So I don't know if yours does like rock damage or something, or if it's just like a harder hit, but
didn't even know there was a melee.
Oh yeah. Press R3.
I was like, where's my melee?
Yeah.
I thought R3 was run.
Hit it. No, L3 is run. Yeah.
Dang. I've been messing up then.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so far it's like I've been following this game for a long time, and I've been kind of excited about it because like the People Can Fly, like they've never been like a really well-known studio, but they've done a lot of work on a lot of big titles that are really good. And I think this one, the concern that I have about this one is that it could run the same path as like, it's weird because it's
Godfall.
It feels, it could go like Godfall, but I mean, it feels more like a Avengers or a Destiny or a live service, but it's not a live service. And I thought Godfall was going to be more like a live service. And then you get in there and it's like, well, these freaking, your outfit is all of your abilities, and it didn't have the loot grind that I wanted. So that was just not good, but I'm hoping that this one does have enough loot and excitement to like kind of keep me engaged. And I like that it's not going to be something that's going to add more shit later on that could potentially hurt the experience. And this might be something that's like, we play it for 15, 20, 30 hour, probably more than that. We probably put like 40 or 50 hours into it, maybe. Depending on how big the story is.
Right.
And feel satisfied. Kind of like how Ghost of Tsushima's like multiplayer was like a nice teaser into, it had loot and stuff of that nature, but it wasn't something you're going to like invest 3,000 hours into and then have, like with Destiny, the problem with Destiny is every time they add new shit to it, it changes the whole meta of the game that could make you not enjoy the next phase of said game. And this one's just like, you play it, you finish it, and then you probably move on. Maybe they'll have expansions down the line, but
yeah,
you know, I hope that this does do well. But there are some things that I'm like not like I expected the graphics to be better for like a next gen game. I thought it was gonna. I mean, it doesn't look bad. I mean, it definitely has a good look to it, but it just feels underwhelming on a PlayStation 5 console. Like some of the stuff, like draw distance and stuff like that. Like you can tell it just like low poly shit in the distance and stuff, which I was kind of bummed about. The movement, it feels, even though it's open world, it's very much like Borderlands, like map layout. It's not open world. It's like open pathways and stuff. It's more guided. And that was not what I expected. But the gameplay, the skill trees, the upgrades, all that stuff so far seems pretty interesting. The menus seem well designed. Like I had to increase the size of my text a little bit because it was a little too tiny, but that's an easy fix. But I definitely, enjoyed what I was engaged in for sure.
Yeah. So back to the story. I mean, everything's so believable in that world. The suspension of disbelief isn't so crazy that, it just doesn't work. And it works very well. And, comparing, someone was saying that this is the Destiny we've wanted, or a Destiny-like game that we've been wanted, and it could actually surpass Destiny in certain ways. And I think this game's on the right path for that. Like, I am very excited to see where the story goes because, you get to know these characters, and like I said, you kind of fall in love with them beginning, and you see how they changed in 31 years, like real quick. And like, I feel like there's actually some great acting in this game. And then the way that they set up the scene and how people move around, and like whoever did the cutscenes like knows what they're doing and knows how to tell a story.
Yeah.
Like camera wise and angles and stuff. And I was like, yes,
I will say
that's really what gets me excited to like want to see what else is in this game.
I will say there were some weird quirks in that like there was a couple of things about the cutscenes that threw me off, and that I don't know why they have a loading screen for a cutscene, and then the actual part of the game where you basically look like you're also in a cutscene, because the cutscenes, real cutscenes, production cutscenes, and the regular cutscenes visually look the same. Like there's no difference in the quality of them. Maybe it's because on PS5 they are the same, but on PS4 maybe like one is like higher resolution rendering and the other one's not. So maybe that's why there's a loading screen. But I feel like they should just not have the loading screens, because they literally could have just transitioned the camera to the cutscene and had just one seamless experience. Maybe they just wanted to have a moment to load there somewhere. And then the other thing that drives me crazy is whenever you're in dialogue with a person, like you're talking to Jakob or whoever, and then like the camera is doing its shaky cam, moving around, like having interactions back and forth. That looks cool. And then it goes to where you select a dialogue option. There's not a seamless transition to that freeze frame. It's just like it jump cuts to like, here's a static version of his face, and then you have your dialogue options. And I feel like it wouldn't have been too hard for them to have the end of the cutscene land where the dialogue options come up, instead of it literally cutting to a freeze frame of this guy's face or girl's face. I don't know if you noticed that, but it like was super distracting for me when that happened. Every dialogue option you had.
It was a freeze frame?
Well, no. So it's like you talk to somebody, and then the camera's doing its shaky cam. It's showing cutting back and forth between different people. Right. And then there was a part where I was looking at Jakob, and the camera was like on him as he was saying his dialogue. And then he came to the end of his dialogue,
and then it would jump a little bit,
and it would jump to like a fixed camera position that they had set for the dialogue options. But it easily could have just like panned a little bit further and came to a stop, and then the dialogue just faded on the screen.
Yes, no, I think you're right. And I don't even think they needed to cut back to these people. Like, because I think I was talking to Jakob or someone else, and like my dialogue ended. It's like, why not? Why did I need to cut back to Jakob?
Yeah, why not cut to my face and show me the dialogue?
Why just stay on me, and then you can decide what you want to say, and then go back into the cinematics. And there are games who do that. I can't think of it right now, but I've seen games do that. That's probably more like a BioWare game or something. Yeah, just like that just makes more sense.
Yeah. So there's little things like that were just like, I mean, to me, this doesn't feel like a AAA game. It feels like Remnant from the Ashes. Yes. It's got that kind of feel to it, where it's a great game, and it's going to be really, I think it's going to be really good, but it's going to be like kind of more, you're like, your B game ish,
Yeah.
as opposed to like this is going to be the next big huge thing that's going to like sink us in forever. But that's
Right.
not necessarily a bad thing. Like I've liked what I played. I like what's there. I think it's got a few issues or like rough around the edges in places, but fundamentally the skills, the loot, the gameplay, moment to moment gameplay is pretty fun and exciting, and I think I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah, I will say the cons I have is, what you said, but the level design does not seem that great. And when you do go into an area, it's very arena-ish, and they just start sending enemies at you who take cover, and it's just like, all right, I guess I'm going to take cover, and then I got to use my abilities to kind of get them out of cover sometimes. So it's a little like the flow isn't the way I want it to be, but I guess it is kind of like Destiny, where they just start sending enemies at you.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a lot like, it's very Borderlands level design inspired.
Okay.
Where it's like, you literally have like linear paths that branch out different directions, but
that's true.
Or honestly, like Remnant from the Ashes.
Yeah.
Like Remnant from the Ashes has that non-linear map style.
Right.
Or that the more linear. It's like, instead of it being like an open world where you can like walk anywhere, like there's designated paths that you can travel down, and they branch out in different areas, but it's not just 100% open.
Right.
Yeah. So, but it's not a bad thing. No. I mean, I would like to have more openness, but it's not end of the world. So,
right.
I think that'll be cool. I'm excited to play more and get into the skill trees and, get a full group of 3 together and see what that looks like. 'Cause it seems like it scales, like the difficulty scales as you add more people. And then it also says that you're supposed to get better loot with more people. So if you have friends with you, like the loot drops are stronger.
Nice.
So that's also good.
Didn't notice I was getting more pieces when we got to loot chests and stuff.
Yeah. So that's a positive. Play with your friends. Let's play together, Al.
Yeah, I'm actually excited. So
sweet.
What is your take? Let us know, because this is a very interesting game that I'm sure people have many different comments about.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this comes out like April 4th or something, or early April. It's not
for
far
some reason.
away.
I thought it was coming out this year. I mean, this month.
Oh, I was like, it is coming out this year.
Yes.
Yeah. No, April 1st is when it. Well, so it was this month. It got delayed. Remember, it was, or I don't know if it was this month, but it was supposed to come out earlier this year, and then they pushed it back a little bit to give them more time. And then I think they may not have been doing the demo originally, but I am glad, kind of to wrap things up, is that the fact that they brought out a demo for this is really cool for me, because like so few people do demos anymore. And I appreciate that they brought out something that's got like a 3 or 4 hour experience. It's completely free. That progress you make in this will carry over into the full game, and like your characters and shit like that. And I like that, because it gives us a chance to try before we buy. And I feel like if they're
confident,
you need to be confident in your game, and that's something that you want to have happen. I mean, it's important. So
yes, I agree.
More companies need to do that.